I have been waiting to make this video for months. I'm so excited, guys. FC25 isn't far away, and in today's video, you're going to get a full breakdown on everything you can expect to see in the new game, with, of course, a heavy focus on career mode. Not only will you get all of the features explained to you, but also you're going to get my feedback because I've played the game. So, without further ado, let's jump into the contents of this video. But just before we do, I do want to say a massive thank you to EA. They've had me on board. I've been a part of a lot of their internal phone calls and discussions, and I've been able to see some ideas flourish into features and new additions to the game. So I'm really, really excited to talk all about it. But I don't want to keep you forever. We're not going to be going through everything in absolute minute detail. There is going to be more detail to come over the next few weeks. So make sure you subscribe, leave a like on this video as well, and let's jump into the video. I've got 8 topics that I want to discuss today. First of all, we'll be going through the brand new Rush game mode. Volta is gone, and it is replaced with Rush. I'll then move on to Rush feedback. So first I'll discuss what it is, and then my thoughts on it, because I've played a few hours of Rush. It's good. It's good. FC IQ will come after that, a brand new tactics kind of feature. We've got then general gameplay changes, something called simulation mode, which is very exciting. We'll then talk about the graphics. We'll go through their new feature, Cranium. And then, of course, we will dive into career mode and all the new features coming to that game mode specifically. I won't be talking about Ultimate Team. I won't be talking about clubs. That will come in a future video. So then, what is Rush? You're probably thinking, wait, it's replaced Volta. So what are they doing now? Well, Rush is similar in some ways to Volta. It's a smaller pitch, it's smaller sized teams, and it's fast, it's action-packed, and it's featuring in all game modes. You're probably thinking, what do you mean by that? Well, I've got some notes to my left here, so forgive me if I look over. There's a lot to get through, and I don't want to miss anything. So first of all, it's 5 versus 5 on a smaller pitch. They've got a devoted stadium to Rush mode, and it is incredible, by the way. I'm not allowed to show it yet. That will come in a future video as well. But not only can you play solo and have, obviously, AI against AI, you can also invite 3 of your friends, 4 of you total, and 1 AI goalkeeper. So it is 5v5, and you can have 4 people controlling 4 players on each team. You cannot control the goalkeeper, okay? One thing that is very, very different in Rush is the offside rule. It is different. I will put something on the screen right now. It is split into thirds, the pitch, and instead of being offside in their half, you can only be offside in their final third. Same on your side of the pitch. So offsides aren't as common, and it's not as punished. You can be offside as long as you're not in their final third. And trust me, it is hilariously fun. It is so, so good when you do get a player through on goal that would have been offside in the normal game of football, but it isn't in Rush. It gives you a rush, actually. But then, of course, when you get into their final third, you need to be a bit more tactical. Another thing they are introducing in Rush is a blue card system. No red cards, but you will get a blue card. You will be sent off the pitch for a minute. And these games aren't very long, by the way, so a minute is a long time for you to be sat on the sides watching your potential friends struggle without you, okay? I don't mean potential friends as in you don't have friends, as in if you're playing with friends. If you're playing on your own, it still sucks. You don't want to be getting a player sent off for a minute. But there are no red cards, it is blue cards. And that is also a really cool feature, because I'm still going to slide in and 2-foot you. I'm sorry. If you're skilling me up and you're doing me on the half turn, I'm taking you out. Worst case, I'm off for a minute, okay? The other thing as well that is new to Rush is there are no positions. You select your 5 players and you're just thrown on the pitch, and it's very fluid. So you might be on the right side for a bit, you then drift into the middle, you might then find yourself on the left side, you might be sitting back, you might be a target man. There is no right winger, left back. There is no defender, midfielder, striker. It's just fluid. And I wasn't so sure about that at first. I thought I'd like to be able to have a formation where you go kind of like 2-2-1, or maybe you go 2-1-2, or just 2-0-3 and just have a bit of a gap in midfield for a transition. I don't know. You could have whatever you want. But actually, I like this system more because you're not thinking about how you're setting up. You're just thrown into the game, and it's a rush. It just is a rush. And as I said, Rush is included in all of the game modes. It is a standalone game mode, which you can just play, but it features in career mode, ultimate team, clubs. We will get onto that later. So then, my feedback for Rush. Now, I must say, I've played an early version. It isn't fully finished, but what I will say, it was very polished. I didn't come across many bugs. Most of the bugs I had were actually in the menu prior to going into the game. When I switched players, so if I brought players from the reserves into the first team, their pictures would shrink. It was hilarious. But the game itself felt very polished. It felt like a normal game of FIFA, a normal game of FC, a normal game of 11 versus 11, but just smaller. Here's my feedback, though. Cutbacks are ridiculously strong, okay? If you can get a pacey winger down the side and you cut it into the box, unless they've got a defender, maybe even two players just sitting there waiting to intercept it, it's very difficult to defend against cutbacks. So that's something to maybe use at the start of the game before they patch it, if they patch it. Corners, and I should mention as well, all of the set pieces are a little bit different. I can't show you gameplay, I can't show you images, but corners, they're quite similar to normal corners, but throw-ins and goal kicks and stuff like that are all very different. You kick the ball instead of throwing it, for example. But corners are extremely strong if you've got a target man. Now, most of my games were playing with City, Real Madrid, and I played a few with Liverpool. There weren't too many teams available to me. Real Madrid were my go-to. But I tried with Man City for a few games with the likes of De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, and a certain Haaland. And my God, Haaland was broken in the air. So good. So if you've got a target man, whip those corners in, because ultimately you're going to be up against potentially just one defender. It'll be a one-on-one almost every time, and Haaland's going to win that header almost every time. So there are definitely some areas they will need to look at and balance for sure. This is my honest feedback, and they haven't steered me in any direction, by the way. It's completely my thoughts and my feelings. Now, the goals. And I don't mean scoring goals. I mean the actual goals themselves, the nets, the goalposts. It's the same size goal as you have in normal games, and I think they're too big. Now, this might change over time. I might realise that after playing more games, more time with the game mode, that it's not too bad. But it did just feel... Because the pitch is so small, the goals look massive. And of course, you've still got the goalkeepers there. They're still the same size, obviously. They cover the same amount. But it did feel like the goals could do with just even if it's 5%, just a little bit smaller. There were many occasions where I could shoot from distance and there's nothing they could do, unfortunately. So that's definitely something to think about. The goalkeepers themselves, I'm not going to say they're overpowered or underpowered. The goalkeepers were fine. They were making some good saves. But what I noticed is the reflex stat was the most important stat by a mile. A goalkeeper with high reflexes compared to a goalkeeper with low reflexes, it was so obvious because you're going to be in front of goal a lot more. You're getting a lot of shots up close and less from distance. There's less time for goalkeepers to react. So the reaction stat, I think, is going to be more important than ever before. But my biggest feedback, other than I really enjoyed playing it, it was really good fun. Genuinely, I mean it. So much better than Volta. I cannot tell you how much better it is. But the one thing I learned is that just play 4 centre mids. If you throw in Bellingham, Valverde, oh my God. If you can get any players that are kind of like Hullet Gang, 80 rated in each stat, it's so strong. De Bruyne was incredible. For me, though, it was Bellingham and Valverde when I was playing with Real Madrid. If you've got players that can defend just as well as they can attack, if they're good in the air, good on the ground, just all-rounders, I think, if I really think about it, 3 centre mids and a target man, that's the way to go. But in general, Volta, I'm so glad it's gone. I never really got into it. Rush replaces it, and I really like it. And, you know, when we talk about how it's included in the other game modes and how you're going to play it for sure because it's involved in other game modes, I think what people will realize is we needed this. We did need something like this in the game. So that's my feedback after maybe 2 or 3 hours playing it. And I'm really excited to know what you guys think when you get your hands on the game. Okay, so moving on to FCIQ. This is a new feature for, well, it's practically revamping tactics, how you set up your team. Huge in career mode, by the way. As you guys know, I'm a massive career mode player. It's my favorite game mode. It always has been. And anything that gives me more control of tactics and how I set up to play, and I'm going to say this right now, it's incredible. It is genuinely incredible. Let me go through my notes and explain to you why I think it's so incredible. So the best word is revamped. It's completely different. The menus have all changed, but there's just more of it, okay? You can adjust your team with the ball and without the ball. This, for me, is a game changer, and it is so noticeable. So when I was playing, I was able to set up my team with a left back coming into midfield, my right back pushing all the way up the pitch, my centre forward dropping deep as soon as I got the ball. But then the moment I lost the ball, those players then moved back to the positions that I wanted them to be in when I don't have the ball. And it was like this. It was instant. It was absolutely incredible. So I was playing with Man City quite a lot. Again, I didn't have a lot of teams to use, but Man City I thought would be a good test to put Vardiol as the left back, but have him drift into midfield, okay? So I'd build up the play, passing it between my defenders into Rodri in midfield, and there is Vardiol literally playing as a left centre mid. He was in midfield when I had the ball. And then if I would lose it, if they would tackle me, or if I would misplace a pass, I would literally watch Vardiol drift back into that left back position and start defending. I noticed Kyle Walker was practically the furthest player forward when I had him playing as an attacking right back, attacking full back, when I had the ball. And as soon as I lost it, he tracked back. And it's not just choosing their position, it's choosing their mentality as well. You can ask them to be really attacking as soon as we've got the ball. And then as soon as we lose the ball, you can have them just sit back as a balanced defending style, or really defensive, or keep them on attacking. Have him high up the pitch the whole game if you want. I went absolutely crazy and tested having 2 of my fullbacks go into midfield, my wingers push up, and I have never seen anything like it. I had 2 centre-backs in my half, and then all of my other players were just in their half. And it was tight and it was compact. It was horrendous. I wouldn't recommend. But this is what FCIQ can do. You have so much control. And for someone like me who absolutely loves what Arsenal do with Zinchenko when he was playing a lot, drifting into midfield. I know Tottenham were doing it a lot last season with their wing-backs both coming into midfield. You can have your DM literally drop into the centre-back role as soon as we lose the ball. I love it. I absolutely love it. But there are certain positions that work really well. It's called false back. So if you've got a Zinchenko, let's say, you're playing him at left back, if you convert him to false back, when I say convert, when you switch him, okay, when you switch him in the custom tactics using FCIQ, you can just make him a false back and he will go into midfield. And it's not as effective if you do it with a player that isn't familiar with the role. And that's where the training comes in. There's more training, and you have to make sure that your players fit those styles. You can't just chuck anyone into a false back position and expect them to do it well. It's vital that you actually build these tactics over time, which is just so cool. But get this as well, guys. Let's say you're watching one of my career modes and you love the tactics I've done. Guess what? I can export my tactics, give you guys a code, and you can import it into your game. Let's get a round of applause, because that is incredible. It also means I can use your tactics. You can share yours with friends, get your friends' tactics in. If you're watching a pro player, he's streaming on Twitch and you love his tactics, I'm sure, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them will put it behind a paywall, but they'll give their tactics to you. You can just import them. It's just a code. You generate a code and you can import and export your custom tactics. Oh, it's brilliant. The other thing as well, mid-game, using the D-pad. The D-pad is actually very important again. It used to be way more important than it is now. You can now switch formations, you can do substitutions, you can do complete revamps of your tactics that you've set up in the menu. You can rename your tactics and they'll pop up on the D-pad. So if you're struggling, 80 minutes in, 1-0 down, you've got an all-out tactic that you built, switch to it. They've also put in smart tactics. It will recommend you tactics if you haven't really set up any yourself. And it was very smart. If I was winning by 2 or 3 goals, it would say, do you want to, shut up shop? It's brilliant. It's absolutely amazing. But the quick subs is really, really nice. It's annoying having to go into the menu to make subs every time. And now on the D-pad, you can just quickly and effectively make substitutions. And it will say in the bottom corner, loading subs, and it tells you when the CPU have done it as well, or the player you're playing against. If they've made a sub, it will tell you next time it's paused, it's going to happen. And not only do you have all of this D-pad stuff, it shows you what you're doing. It pops up with animations of formation changes, positional changes. It will show you where players will be. The whole thing is really cool. And I think FCIQ is a huge feature for career mode. I really, really like it. They've done a great job with this. Now let's talk about gameplay. I would say outside of Rush, I played maybe 3 or 4 hours of just the game itself. And again, I do need to say it is an early build. It wasn't the game we're going to have when it comes out, but pretty much, okay? There's a few little bits they'll polish. I'm sure there's a few little animations they are going to tweak and put in and whatever, but this is the notes that I've come up with over those hours playing, okay? Match intros are back! Oh, it's a brilliant, brilliant new addition to the game. It's not a new addition, okay? For some reason, they took it out, and they explained to me it was because they wanted things to be fast. They wanted you to load in and just play. They got the wrong impression that people just skip cutscenes. It's all boring. Get me into the game. No. So guess what they've done? Not only have they brought them back, you can opt in or opt out, or you can skip. You can choose to just remove the match intros completely and go straight into the game automatically. Or, like me, you love it when you get a good match build-up, especially for the big games. Well, guess what? There are extended cutscenes and intros to those games, which you can opt in, and I love it. It is so much better. I don't know why they took them out. I understand the logic of just wanting players to just get into the game, but I think that's a very Ultimate Team competitive logic to go with. When you're playing career mode, it's all about immersion. So I'm so glad that they've brought this back. And not only are they forcing it, you can opt in and opt out. Very cool. There are more animations. Obviously, every year they put more animations into the game, but some of them are hilarious. You can now slip and slide. We'll talk more about that in a minute with simulation mode. I've seen players fall over and slide with their legs around the goalpost, and they've got an animation for them obviously being in a lot of pain. It's brilliant, and there's a few other animations that I'll leave as a surprise for you guys. Maybe they'll reveal a few of them themselves. There's more cutscenes in general, a lot of things going off the pitch as well, the managers and the subs arguing, getting angry. I've seen Pep Guardiola and Ange, who's now in the game, Postecoglou, arguing on the sidelines. It's actually quite funny. They've introduced something called POV, so a lot of the replays are now from the perspective of the player. We've seen that with referees, we've seen that before, but it's so cool. Some of the goals I scored and the replays were with the player directly on the... Oh, it's really cool. Sometimes a little bit overdone, though. I noticed it was happening a bit too much, and after a while, it doesn't have such a cool effect, so maybe they could adjust that a little bit. Now, Haaland, who is in the background here, as you guys know, they put his animations into the game last year. You run like Haaland, whatever. Well, this year, they have a new technology, which they're calling Mimic, and they now capture the entire body. It isn't just the top half of a player, or just the legs, or just the kick. The whole thing. And Haaland, they showed a clip of Haaland in this game, and it's like they mocapped him. It's genuinely, absolutely amazing. Play styles were introduced in the last game. They've added more and specifically goalkeeper ones. So if you play goalkeeper in pro clubs, for example, you're going to have some really good play styles added in. Oh, this one. Tactical fouls are in FC25. You can press a button when you're chasing someone. If you feel like you're not going to get the ball, you can just pull their shirt, tug them onto the ground. Obviously, you're going to pick up yellows and reds doing that, but there is now tactical fouling, and obviously you could do that anyway by just taking a player out by sliding, but it's an official thing. They've got animations built into the game where you're literally pulling people down, and it's hilarious. I feel like some of the stuff they're adding this year adds comedic value more than anything. I cannot wait to be 2-0 up, 89th minute, and one of their quick players is running through, and I'm just going to rip them down. I'm just going to pull their shirt and throw them to the floor. Hilarious. Dribbling has changed. I noticed when turning 180, it's quicker. It's definitely quicker, and they've added more tight, close animations, which I think was really needed. And also, they've added a few more, I want to call it punishments, for passes that don't really make sense. If you are receiving the ball and you want to pass it behind you, if you attempt to pass the ball from a different direction, you get punished a lot more. You need to have a very skillful player at passing to achieve an accurate pass that way. You need to take a touch and turn, just like in real life. Only the best players in the world could ping a pass behind them without even looking really accurately. So they've definitely made that a lot harder. Of course, there's new skill moves, which I won't list, but there were some really cool ones, including, I'll give you one, a back heel nutmeg. Yep. And last but not least, they've added mascots. You can now celebrate with club mascots. I saw some absolutely brilliant animations. They're literally in the stadium on the side of the pitch. You can go and run over to them, high-five them, celebrate with them, dance with them. Mascots are in FC25. I mean, why not? But that's all of the gameplay stuff I'm going to talk about for now, and let's talk about simulation. I am really happy with this. They're calling it simulation mode, I believe. They're adding certain things to the game that you can just toggle on or off. And I think it's specifically for that immersive, career mode, or just playing matches from the main menu. I don't really think it's for Ultimate Team, if I'm honest. And I'm pretty sure half this stuff is visual only. It won't actually impact. Let's say you're playing at an esports tournament. One of the things that they've introduced with simulation mode is the weather is going to affect the play a lot more. And you don't want that when you're playing a competitive game. So, for example, you won't believe this, but it's true, and I felt it. Wind now affects the game. And there's a little compass thing. If you're taking free kicks, corners, whatever, it will tell you the wind direction. So if you toggle simulation mode on and you decide to have wind affecting gameplay, you will notice in windy matches, your passing is going to be different, your shooting is going to be less accurate. It genuinely affects it, and it's rather interesting. And that ties me into the next one. Dynamic weather is here. You could kick off a game, it's bright and sunny, and as you're playing, it's going to get darker as you go into sunset, and you can finish a game in the dark. You can have it dry, and then it's going to start raining. Dynamic weather has been needed for so long, and you bet I will have that turned on. But there's a downside to that, okay? And again, I must make sure you guys are aware, this is visual only, okay? When you're playing with this mode on, your players will slip and fall over. They'll kick the ball long and literally flop on their back. Now, you don't want that in a competitive game, so that's why you can toggle it on and off. But it does not affect the gameplay. That the player isn't going to misplace his pass because he slipped. And part of me was sad when they said that, but I understand. Okay, so basically, let's say you're trying to switch the ball from right back to left wing. Kyle Walker's about to blast it up to Grealish. The ball will still be exactly as it was, just as accurate as it was going to be, but Walker's going to slip if it's snowing or if it's raining. You know, it's just a visual thing only. And then there's the animations, as I said before. You know, if you're sliding in to tap in across, but then your players go around, your legs go around the post. There's animations like that, which obviously aren't going to make the player injured and need to go off. It's just a visual thing only. But here's a really interesting thing. With simulation mode, you can have pre-adjusted sliders that they've built into the game. If you want a more slow approach, a more realistic approach, they will adjust the sliders for you. Of course, you can do it yourself, but these pre-adjusted ones, they would have built themselves and tested themselves. I think that's really cool. I would like to be able to export and import sliders, though. I get so many. Every day someone asks me, what are your sliders? And I've listed them in my Discord, by the way. But if I was able to put a code online and say, these are my sliders, enjoy, and you just import them, just like we can do with tactics now, I think that would be really cool. But very excited about simulation mode. Anything that gives me more immersion and just fun moments, I'm all for it. Moving on to graphics now, and this is a very quick topic because obviously the game looks great. It's always looked great. It's the best looking football game on the market for sure. We don't need to talk about that, but it's a new feature they've put into the game, okay? So they have enhanced visuals. So they have now, for the first time, got ray tracing built into the game. And this is something you can toggle on and off. You can either have enhanced visuals or you can favor resolution. Testing it, the difference was absolutely night and day. If you have enhanced visuals, the game looks so much better. Darks are darker. Players have much looser fabric. Their kit just moves more realistically. Everything just looks a lot sharper and nicer. And if you play on favored resolution, it still looks great. But obviously, you might... I don't know if I agree, though, but you might feel like it's smoother. I don't know, though, because they're both 60 FPS, confirmed, and they felt good. Both of them felt good. I played on Enhanced, playing on a PS5, because of course I will. I will always make the game look as good as possible for you guys to watch. And I didn't really feel any difference swapping between them. It just made sense to make it look better because why not? But it's a new thing that they've added into the game. And the ray tracing is, I mean, it's obviously still a relatively new technology and it looks great. Let's talk about Cranium next. This is a new technology, which is literally it's about the cranium. For those of you who don't know, if you haven't studied human anatomy, the cranium is your skull. And they've called it that because they have a new technology that lets you build faces with a lot more control. The amount of sliders, the amount of presets and hair and beards, and you can adjust the jaw, the chin, everything. It's so much more detailed. But that's not even the exciting bit. Not only are you going to be able to go into pro clubs and really recreate yourself and recreate players more effectively, but they are using Cranium to fix generic faces. It's amazing, guys. It is absolutely amazing. They are using it with AI to create somewhat, I would say some of them are very close, okay? They are using AI to build players' faces that aren't officially scanned into the game. So obviously right now you're looking at 3 players that have been scanned for a few years now. And that's done with cameras. They have a huge camera system. The player sits there and the pictures are taken and then it's put into the computer and they generate the face, which costs a lot of money, but it gives you the most accurate face you could have, okay? But Cranium, using AI technology, and I'm sure they could have artists use it as well, if there's a player that just looks nothing like their real face in-game, Cranium is going to make them look so much closer. It replicates the hair and beard as much as possible, but just using the in-game capabilities. And the amount of generic faces I had in-game, but looked pretty good, actually. It's a huge thing for me. I hate using players with generic faces in career mode. You guys know it's a pet peeve of mine, but with Cranium, it's definitely going to make it a lot better. I love this. Now for the most exciting stuff, guys. It's career mode. Now, we're very long into this video already, so I'm going to go through the new features, but I'm going to do a deep dive, really going into the details of all of the new features. And it's the biggest year for career mode in so long, and there's some exciting stuff. So let's jump into the basics here. And like I said, come back tomorrow for a deep dive. But we, for the first time ever, are getting live start points. Let's say we're 8 weeks into the new season, 3 months into the new season, or the January transfer window's just shut. You are going to be able to start a career mode from those points, and it will match the table in real life in your game. Amazing. Absolutely incredible. One of the worst things about career mode, in my opinion, is when you get to this time of year where the season's just finished, you don't want to start a season now in career mode when you're a year late, if that makes sense, or 9 months late. Well, with live start points, you can just start towards the end of last season. You can start at the beginning of season 2. It's something that they will update regularly, and it will be across multiple leagues. And like I said, maybe you're a Liverpool fan and they are second in April and they've got a few games in hand. And if they win all their games, they'll win the title. You can just jump in and do that. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. But not only are you going to be able to do live start points, they're also going to have something called snapshots. And those are going to be pop-up challenges almost. Just like I mentioned with Liverpool needing to win the title, or maybe you've got an FA Cup final and a Champions League final. And these snapshots are going to be really quick scenarios that you just jump in and try and compete and complete. Really, really cool. Women's career mode. We are now going to be able to play career mode in the women's football leagues. You can now start a career mode with the Chelsea's women's team or Arsenal's women's team, or you can go over to the MLS, the ladies' MLS, and that's obviously huge for women's football. I'm actually really proud that that's a thing. We need to do this. It might not necessarily be something that I desperately want to play, but there's no doubt there are many, many women out there that would love to do a career mode with the women's teams. And now we can. So that is absolutely massive. The other new feature as well is you can do player career mode with icons. That's right. You can recreate David Beckham's career, Pele's career. All of these new icons will be added into the game. There's going to be 3 at launch with 3 as a pre-order, I believe, a pre-order bonus. And they can add more in the future. And you can play with these icons at your favorite club. You can move them into different leagues. You've got control of their destiny. I haven't been able to play that myself, but that sounds awesome. I would love to recreate some of my favorite players. I believe Henry is available on launch. That could be a series for me, for sure. Up next, let's talk about Youth Academy. Again, I'm not going to go into absolute minute detail, but the Youth Academy has changed. It is so, so much better. And this is where you're able to play the rush game mode as well. When you find youth players, which, by the way, the young youth players look young now. They've changed how they look. You're not going to get a 15-year-old that's bald with a beard and looks 25. Okay, the players that you get that are young look young. And what you're able to do now is train them and play with these youth players in a rush game mode system. And you can opt in to use these players at their full potential or at their current rating. So let's say you find a 65 rated 15-year-old winger. You think, wow, he could be the next Lionel Messi. You can see he's got a very strong, high potential. You can then jump into Rush and do some training, playing 5v5 with that 15-year-old winger, and you can play with him at his full potential, so he would be like 90 rated, so you get a feel for what he's going to feel like, or you can just play with him at his 65 rating or whatever I just said. It's such a good idea. And if you do the Rush training and play those games with your Youth Academy players, they develop and grow faster, so you're rewarded for doing so. I think it's one of the best things they've done, but also that the fact that the young players will look young, I think that's really important. I really do, because it breaks immersion getting a 6'7", 14-year-old with a massive beard, okay? When you start a career mode, there is more customization options. So now you are able to do much more before you set up the career mode. And there's more sliders as well now, by the way, so you can adjust how aggressive their tackles are, how often they shoot, and how often they do through balls. And there's so much now. The amount of customization is incredible. I won't go through everything because I'll save that for my next video. But it feels like they've understood why people use mods and being able to adjust things. And they've tried to put their own stuff in that gives it that modded feel. You're modding your career mode by just adjusting these customization options, which is really cool. And then lastly, I mentioned there is a new UI, which is much, much, much better to use. It's similar to the Ultimate Team menu. You have, you know, everything in the top left corner and you can just scroll through. You have like a to-do list, which pops up in the bottom left corner and you just go through one by one. So you're not switching through menus, tabbing through menus all the time using your bumpers, which is really, really nice. But there is also now a social media feature featuring Fabrizio Romano. If you make a signing, Fabrizio is going to announce your signing. Here we go. It's actually incredible. They've got basically a built-in Twitter system, with, you know, basically fans talking about signings and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. Obviously, it's not going to really change the game, but it's a nice little feature. And again, just giving you a little bit of immersion. But that is everything, guys. I'm so excited. And by the way, this image right here is real. When I first saw this, I thought it was photoshopped. There's no way they got all 5 of them there, all of the trophies there. But no, it's legit. I've seen the behind the scenes. Everything you see there is real. It's a real picture. Incredible. I hope you've enjoyed my hands-on feedback and going through all of the new stuff coming into the new game. Of course, I haven't talked about Ultimate Team or Pro Clubs. I think I'll do that soon. But tomorrow, let's talk about career mode in more detail. And I'm going to stop talking for a bit. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.